I'm Chris Duke, and today on Motorz we're going to show you how to do a gear swap on a 2005 Ford F-150. Changing the gear ratio in your rear end has been a mystery for a lot of people, and no one's fully covered the installation on video. Now, understanding how these parts work together is important to know as well, so today on Motorz we're going to show you how to install some aftermarket gears in a rear differential on a two-wheel drive 2005 Ford F-150 truck. Now, here in Southern California, the area is covered with hills and mountains, and having a lifted truck with stock gears makes the truck struggle quite a bit more, especially when you're towing. Now, increasing the gear ratio in the rear end helps add low-end torque in the lower RPMs where you need it the most. For our truck right here with 35-inch tires, we decided to go with 456 ring and pinion gear from Motiv Gear, a rear differential cover from PML for our 975 rear end, Royal Purple's 75-140 gear oil, and a Diablo Sport Trinity programmer to help correct our speedometer and add even more power. Now, before we get to the installation, let's take a quick look at how your rear differential gears really work. Now, the two parts that we're replacing are the pinion gear, which is this guy right here, as well as our ring gear. Now, how this works is you've got a drive shaft. So when you step on the pedal, it turns the drive shaft. Well, what's attached to the drive shaft is this pinion gear. It attaches right here with a flange, which you'll see a little bit later. So inside the differential housing is this pinion gear, and it attaches to the ring gear, this larger guy, inside. And it turns like this, kind of near the bottom. So we're going to be upgrading our gears to 456 gears. Now, that ratio is referring to the number of teeth. In this case, there's 4.56 times the number of teeth on our ring gear as our pinion gear. Now, inside the differential housing, this guy actually sits up here like this and turns a bunch of spider gears, which are attached to your axles. And the axles are stuck in through the sides, and that's what gets your wheels moving. Now, for this installation, you're going to need a lot of tools, including a floor jack and a couple of jack stands, some work gloves, and a ton of rags. A 1/4 inch, a 3/8 inch ratchet, various screwdrivers, some needle nose pliers, a hammer, a breaker bar, a pry bar, a torque wrench, a Sharpie, various extensions for your ratchets, sockets ranging from 3/8 all the way up to 11/16 in metric and standard, as well as some wrenches ranging from a 1/4 inch to 11/16 in various sizes in both metric and standard, some safety goggles, a putty knife, some red Loctite, and a gasket scraper. Now, since this is such a specialized installation, you're also going to need some special tools, and the biggest reason is for pressing on your new bearing onto your pinion gear. This is a one-shot deal, so you have to do it right. Now, you can take those two items to a shop that has a press and have them press it on for you, or you could do it yourself by getting your own shop press, like our 12-ton that we have right over here, but you're also going to need a bearing puller and separator set. Now, one suggestion that we have is to actually pick up an extra set of inner and outer bearings and then carve them down on the inside with the Dremel. That will allow you to slip these on and off while you adjust those shims. Now, you can go that route, or you can get a ring and pinion setup tool, but this is a lot easier and you're going to get it right the first time. Also, you're going to need a 4-inch gear puller, as well as a bearing race and sealed driver set. For Motiv Gear, we've got the 456 ring gear, the corresponding pinion gear, as well as a crush seal, along with both outer and inner bearings with matching races, some Loctite paint and RTV instant gasket, some additional bearings, pinion nuts, a crush seal, a bunch of shims, and replacement 13/16 bolts for the ring gear. Now PML also hooked us up with a new rear differential cover with all the necessary hardware, as well as a transmission pan, which we'll show you how to install in a future episode of Motorz. Now to begin with our gear swap, we've got to get our sway bar off. Now we've already done that. We took our Hellwig sway bar off, and to learn how to do that, just refer to our previous episode on that. Next thing we got to do is we got to get this rear differential cover off. But before we get to that, we got to check that fill plug, which is on the front side here. So grab a 3/8" drive ratchet and just see if you can wiggle it loose, because we want to make sure that we can remove that later, because we're going to have to put some fluid back in there. So once you've tested that out, grab a drain pan and some newspapers. Hook this guy up here, and we're going to remove all these bolts except for the very top one. Now, after removing all the bolts but this one at the very top, grab a putty knife or a screwdriver and a mallet, and you want to break that old seal by sticking this in there and banging away. There we go. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, it smells wonderful. Now, using some paper towels or some old rags, you want to clean up the rest of this fluid in here. You need to get that out of there. And also take a gasket scraper like this, which is basically just a razor blade, or you can just use a razor blade. Just be careful. And you want to scrape off all this old RTV seal that's on here. Now, with that rear differential cover removed, now that fluid drained on out of there, we've got to disconnect this drive shaft. So grab a 12mm 12-point wrench. You can use a socket. We didn't have a socket, so we're also going to use another wrench to leverage in order to pull these off. Just like that. But before you get too carried away, you want to take a Sharpie or some paint and mark right here between this bracket and the flange, right here and right here, for alignment later when you put this all back on. And you also might want to tie up your drive shaft so it doesn't fall down on you. So just grab some string for that. Now once you have those 4 12mm bolts removed, this bracket might be a little rusted on there. So you can use a rubber mallet or a small sledgehammer to break it loose. And using that string or your strap, you can pull your drive shaft up out of the way. Next thing we need to do is we need to remove this flange from that pinion gear. With a 1 1/8 socket and a breaker bar, remove this pinion nut. Use a 4-inch gear puller to remove that flange. Now, before we can remove our differential, we have to move our axles out a little bit. In order to do that, we have to remove our wheels and all of our brake components. Remove the brake caliper by using a 10mm wrench and removing these 2 bolts right here. Now, if this rotor doesn't come off like you want it to with a rubber mallet, it's because you've got some parking brake shoes that are on the inside of this drum that are pressing against it. Plus, you've also got a whole bunch of rust inside there. So you can also try banging on the front and the side to loosen up some rust. But actually, there's a grommet on the back side of the dust brake shield back here. And so you want to remove that grommet and then take a flat blade screwdriver and adjust the tensioner. And that will give you some wiggle room to take this thing off.
Turn it.
There it goes. The first step in removing the differential is to remove this center pin right here. To do that, we need to remove this bolt right here with a 3/8" wrench. As you can see on the inside here, the ends of both of our axles. Now what we're going to do is we're going to push on this one. It's going to push in a little bit. We're going to remove this one C-clip that's right there. Once you have that one out, you can do the other one. And once we've got both of those out of there, we can back up our axles just enough to clear the differential. Next, you want to remove these 4 bolts here on these clamps that hold the differential in place. So grab a breaker bar and a 3/4" socket and remove them. Oh, that's heavy. And then remove the pinion gear. Now on the front of the housing is this pinion seal. We need to remove that as well as the bearing that's inside there. So grab a screwdriver and bang on it right in between there to loosen it up and remove it. Now you'll notice that we're basically destroying this seal here. It's a press seal and we're not going to reuse it. We've got a new one, so just take this one and throw it away. And now we can remove the outer pinion bearing. So you'll notice on this bearing we've got one shim. We're going to replace that one when we put in the new bearing as well. So you'll notice that there's a race right here. We need to knock that out from the back side of the differential using a long punch. Now, there's this one here, and there's another one on the inside of the differential. We need to knock that one out too, because we're going to replace those with new ones. Now we couldn't get the stock races out of our truck with our punch tool because we didn't have enough space to swing the hammer. So we ended up using this air chisel. Now to put the new races in, you're going to need a bearing race installer and a large hammer. You just want to line them up, place it inside, and start swinging. Now you'll know when that race is all the way in when it stops. You can also check from the back side here to make sure it's flush, which it already is. Then go ahead and do the exact same thing on the back side. Next we need to put on our new ring gear, and as you can see our old one is still stuck to our differential with these 12, 13, 16 bolts. Now you can try to remove these using a breaker bar and a socket wrench if you can safely and securely hold this. Now we don't have a way of doing that, so we're just going to use an air impact gun. And with that 12th bolt removed, just give it a bang, it should pop right off. Now install your new ring gear by setting it with the teeth facing down. Take your differential, place it inside, kind of eyeball the alignment of the bolt holes and lift it up. You can install some bolts in a crisscross pattern and then slowly snug them up in alternating patterns. Once you have those 4 tightened down, you can install the rest of them. To dial in the mesh for your new gears, there's one of 2 different ways you can go. You can get a ring and pinion setup tool like this one here. It'll cost you a little bit over $100. Or you can just buy a new inner pinion bearing like this one here for about $40. Now we're going to use this one as well as the stock outer pinion bearing, and we're going to grind out the center with the Dremel so that these guys fit a little bit looser over your pinion gear. Because what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to add and remove these shims to dial in the adjustment, and you're probably going to have to take this bearing on and off a few times as well as this one. Now once you've got all of your adjustments made, then you can put on your new bearings. Now with our test bearing and our shims in place, we can go ahead and install our pinion gear as well as the differential so that we can check our gear mesh. Now once we've got everything reassembled, we want to check for the amount of contact between the pinion gear, which is way back there, and the ring gear. So what you want to do is take some of the supplied paint and paint both the inside and the top of 3 or 4 of these teeth, and then rotate it about 3 or 4 times from the pinion gear so that makes good contact. We've already done this, so I'll spin this up. What we want to do is we want to make sure that this contact is about centered on the drive side, which is the bottom side, not the coast side, which is the top side, about right there in the center. Now it's almost perfect, but we're going to try dialing it in a few more times by adjusting the shims on the pinion gear. And now that we've figured out the correct number of shims for our pinion gear, we can go ahead and press it on. Now if you don't have a shop press like this one here, you can find one at your local tool store, and if you don't want to go that route, you can probably find one at a local shop and they can press it on for you. So what we're going to do is use this jack here to press the pinion gear down onto the bearing. Now on the ends of both of your axles is this little O-ring right here. Now you may need to replace them like we did, and if that's the case, then just go down to your local Ford parts department and pick up a new set of them. And while you're there, go ahead and pick up some of this friction modifier, and we'll explain what you're going to do with that in a little bit. With the inner bearing pressed onto our pinion gear, we just need to put this crush sleeve, and we can insert that through the differential housing. And on the other side, we can take the outer bearing with this stock shim and slip that on. Once that's on, then we can take the seal and we can tap that on. Now with that seal installed, we can reinstall this flange. Just make sure that the splines line up. Now you're not going to be able to tighten down this pinion nut manually. You're going to need an impact gun. So have a buddy on the other side of the pinion gear holding it in place and tighten it down until there's just a little bit of play left. Then using a torque wrench, torque it down to the vehicle's specified torque setting, which on our F-150 here is 15 to 19 foot-pounds of torque. All right, so how's that?
It's a little snug.
All right, we'll back it off just a little bit and then we'll torque it down. Now if you try to torque it right now, nothing's going to happen, so we're going to have to actually put our differential back together with our axles so we can lock it. Then reinstall your C-clips and the center pin. Now with our differential put back together, we can go ahead and put on our stock diff cover, but now why would we go ahead and put this rusty old nasty thing back on when we can also upgrade to an aftermarket differential cover? This one's from PML, and not only does it just look cool, but it also keeps everything a lot cooler with this built-in heat sink, and it also holds more fluid. And unlike our stock diff cover, it's got a drain plug and a fill plug. Now you can use the provided RTV to put a bead all along the housing on the inside of the bolts. Now tighten these down by hand in a crisscross pattern. Now with that last bolt tightened down, we can put in our drain plug down here. And to give the RTV instant gasket some more time to set, when we come back from our break, we'll go ahead and reattach our drive shaft, all of our brake stuff, and our wheels and tires, and we'll put in some new fluids.
Check out the Motorz TV website to watch all of your favorite episodes and more, and talk with other viewers online in our popular forums area. Catch the latest news and information surrounding the show, as well as the entire automotive industry. Take Motorz with you on the road with our free app available for the iPhone and iPod Touch, and win free parts by entering in our monthly giveaway. It's all right here at www.motorz.tv.
Reattach your drive shaft using the same bolts you used when you disconnected it. Just make sure you use a little bit of red Loctite. And when you line this up, use those marks that you made before. Now on our flange bolts, these 12.12 millimeter bolts, you just need to torque these down to the manufacturer's recommendation. Now since our new PML cover comes with its own fill plug, our stock fill plug is actually going to become our level plug. So we're going to go ahead and remove it. So when we put our fluids in, we'll know when it's full, when it starts coming out of this one. Now it's time to put in our new fluids. For that, we went to Royal Purple and they provided us with some gear oil. Now we went with 75 140. Your vehicle might be a little bit different, so check your owner's manual first before you buy some of this stuff. Now Ford recommends that you add a friction modifier. This is for your limited slip. Now our PML cover here holds a lot more fluid than the stock one. In fact, it holds 4 quarts of royal purple. So once it starts draining out there, go ahead and put it on your fill plug as well as our level plug back there. Now when you change your gear ratio or you change the diameter of your tires, you need to tell your computer about that. Now in late model vehicles it's fairly easy to do, but you need some help from the aftermarket. Now if you don't do this, your speedometer is going to be all thrown off. You'll be going down the freeway at like 70 miles an hour and it's going to be reporting 90, so that's also going to throw off your odometer. So you need to get that fixed. Now one of the solutions is from Diablo Sport. It's called Trinity. You just hook this up to your OBD2 port and dial in your new settings and you're good to go. Now we're going to show you how to hook this up right now. Now the Trinity comes with a cable that hooks right up to the bottom just like that, and the other end of it goes to your OBD2 port, which is down here underneath your dash. On most vehicles, on our F-150 it's right there. It also comes with a windshield mount. This just hooks onto the back just like that, and we're going to stick that onto our windshield. Now to get this all wired up, it's pretty easy on our F-150. We're just going to pop off this panel here, run the wire down, and hook this up to our windshield. Begin by accepting the disclaimer, and then move on to the performance option. Another disclaimer, and select your vehicle's information. We're going to go ahead with 87 performance, and it's going to back up our original tune on our computer. Now that the original tune has been backed up, we're going to go ahead and modify this tune for our gear ratio and our tire size. Here we're going to bump this up to 456. After changing our axle ratio, which is our gear ratio, we need to change the number of revolutions per mile for our tires. Now we looked this up online and found out for our Mickey Thompson 35-inch tires, it's about 596. Now this is going to vary from tire to tire, so check with the manufacturer to find out what it is for your specific tire. Well, now that was our most involved installation we've ever done on Motorz. Now you do want to allow for a break-in period of about 500 miles, so drive lightly and no towing. Now we'd like to thank PML, Motive Gear, Royal Purple, and Diablo Sport for helping make this installation possible. Now for more episodes of Motorz, just head on over to our website, and of course for more information on all the products installed in this episode, also head on over to our website and click on the parts button. We'll catch you next week on Motorz. All right, ready?
Oh, I get to smell that! I get to smell that too!
I do not want to be here right now where I am. I'll be honest with you. Especially with shrapnel hitting me. Bye, Fred! Zut!
You thought Motorz, what you were really thinking of